Good afternoon. My name is Bria Ellis, and I'm here with Mehdi Ratabi, and we're here to discuss our research topic, COVID-19 and its impact on disruptions of the food supply chain.
Supply chain management. This research will reflect the supply chain transportation disruption the company confronts during the pandemic, illustrate the different impact of this disruption, and define effective strategies to avoid it. It is critical to identify the issues for better understanding and clarify the strategies needed to deal with such a disaster.
Research motivation. COVID-19 has revealed various shortcomings within the food supply chain in the United States. Although food is abundant in America, the COVID-19 crisis has showed how fragile the supply chain is to unexpected events. 95 of respondents of a survey of various companies have shown that they have been greatly impacted by COVID-19. Additionally, mothers and children are a critical aspect of the population that have been greatly impacted by COVID-19.
Research purpose. The study will examine the factors that have negatively impacted the food supply chain during the COVID-19 crisis, clarify the different impact of disruptions of various food supplies, and illustrate effective strategies to avoid supply chain disruption during the future events. Our research questions: what are the factors that have negatively impacted the food supply during the COVID-19? How do small and large businesses react differently to supply chain disruption? And what are the solutions to supply chain management risks that can be applicable in the business of all sizes nowadays? Research introductions. Introduce the different impact of the disruption on supply chain process. Disruption can impose risks. Disruption can also cause damages as a supply chain because it can jeopardize the service level to the customers and illustrate like the effect when merchandise and goods might arrive late or updated. How how to apply the different effective strategies to avoid supply chain disruptions during the pandemic.
Literature review. Research conducted in 2020 has shown that supply chains are designed for nominal operations and not for once in a lifetime disruptions such as COVID-19. Additionally, research has shown that supply chain performance seeks to measure the efficiency and effectiveness of the supply chain process. Supply chain management also aims to use resources and capabilities in an effective way in order to improve performance. And lastly, operational risks are associated with various um, uncertainties, such as uncertain customer demand or supply. Additionally, disruption risks are associated with major disruptions caused by both natural and man-made disasters and or economic crisis. Theoretical framework. Our theoretical framework has been adopted by research conducted by C.S. Tang in 2006, which looks at the factors of supply chain risk, that being product management, demand management, supply management, as well as information management.
Data analysis. Recent data from the Journal of Asian Finance, Economic and Business shows that more than 30% of employees availability was decreased since the beginning of the pandemic in most warehouses, which has reduced efficiency, such as packing, filling, organizing, and had created a timetable disruption of the supply chain operation, especially for drivers. However, each company operates differently relating to the specific human capital gaps, delivering flexibility, punctuality, and services. Disruption can cause many damages to a supply chain because it can jeopardize the service level to the customers, such as the merchandise may arrive late or out of date. COVID-19 has affected the entire business global operation and encountered a great disruption, especially for the supply chain transportation most significantly. This recent unusual high demand for most necessary and emergency items has created a tremendous employee shortage, delays, obstacles on disruption in the transportation process. Coronavirus has changed our way of living, conducting business, shopping, and even affected our transportation process.
And now we're moving on to our case study, which looked at HEB, which is a retailer based out of Texas. HEB developed an emergency plan back in 2005 in response to the H5N1 virus, which was first implemented back in 2009 in response to the swine flu. In early February 2020, they ran various tabletop exercises to see how COVID-19 would impact their own business. And they actually were forward thinking by reaching out to both Chinese and Italian suppliers and retailers back in early January 2020. They were able to talk to these different individuals and leverage the information and insights from these company leaders experiencing the pandemic firsthand. Additionally, they used their own staff from corporate offices and allocated their human capital by switching their role from working inside the office to working as volunteers within their stores. Additionally, they had various employee support schemes in order to support their employees through the pandemic crisis. Additionally, HEB activated their Emergency Management Operations Center, which is pictured on the right-hand side, which allowed the company's leaders in key areas to make more streamlined decisions and foster collaborative efforts. This Operations Center is functional year-round, and basically they were able to allocate their labor, which allowed HEB to pivot quickly and effectively. They also did various other strategies by collaborating with local beer distributors in order to get food delivered from farms to their retail locations. They also partnered with a delivery company in order to provide food for senior citizens. They also donated various meals and donated over $3 million to COVID-19 research and to support vulnerable communities. The takeaway of this research, this case study, is to show the flexibility and preparedness that HEB's response during COVID-19 shows. Secondly, moving on to our second case study, which looks at the UK's response to COVID-19 and the impact on the supply chain. Nearly half of the UK's food supply chain is actually imported, and their food supply chain cannot withstand shocks. Additionally, their food supply chain in the UK is very fragmented, as there are 16 different government agencies involved within the food supply chain. Additionally, the labor shortage due to COVID-19 caused severe disruptions in various sectors, including livestock production and harvesting and crop processing, basically sectors that are very labor intensive. In response, the UK created the Pick for Britain campaign, which was aimed to find 70,000 British workers in order to support those efforts. Additionally, the labor shortage was due to illness and various other factors, which undermined the ability for farms and agricultural businesses to actually function. And this actually hindered the delivery of food and agricultural inputs and created further problems within the food supply chain. Lastly, we look at the EU's response to supply chain disruptions. Initially, during the start of the pandemic, there were long lines, and these long lines actually shrank as EU policy leaders made changes with the creation of green lanes, which basically sped up cross-border transportation of goods and produce. Additionally, various other restrictive measures were put in place in order to maintain the free flow of goods from one country to the other via the borders.
After analyzing all the impacts that have negatively affected food supply during COVID-19 crisis, including applying safety requirements, inventory preparation, and increased human capital, and effective risk identification management, such as risk analysis, risk calculation, risk handling, and risk monitoring. And illustrate the solutions for supply chain management risk that can be applicable to businesses of all sizes, such as educating employees, implementing planning strategy, and evaluating alternative capacity options.
Managerial implications. In order to make changes going forward, industry leaders can consult other leaders in their field that have successfully responded and modified their practices during COVID-19. For example, other retailers can look at HEB as an example, a positive example, and for governments, they can look at the UK's response as a maybe a negative example to look at. Additionally, they can locate and activate alternative supply channels and seek out local food suppliers and farmers if possible. Limitations. These changes will be difficult to implement until the next global disaster or epidemic occurs, and some of these strategies may be difficult to implement due to slim profit margins. Here are our list of references, and thank you.
Thank you.